Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
A milestone moment creates a beautiful memory for years to come. And now's the time to celebrate it with 35% off select pieces at Blue Nile. Blue Nile makes your most valuable moments sparkle with jewelry gifts of the highest quality offered at the best price. You'll also find expert guidance and the level of convenience you'd expect from the world's leading online jeweler. Right now, take advantage of 35% off select pieces at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com. BlueNile.com.
There's this saying, play caller's intent. I heard that at a clinic a couple years ago. I think it's been around, but I kind of like that. You know, does the quarterback understand when you call a play in the situation you're calling it, why you're calling it, and what they're looking for? One thing I'll do is in Skelly, I'll have the quarterback call the plays. Like, I write them down. You know, we put them in then later. Like, it gives me a sense what rolls off the quarterback's tongue. Like, what's he comfortable with, and what can he call?
In this episode of the Champion Series, presented by Signature Championship Rings, 6-time state champion Tom Lombardo, head coach at Cleveland St. Edward High School, discusses the team's practice progression, focusing on acclimation days and structured sessions covering various aspects of the game. The team's summer morning practice approach includes team meetings, on-field activities, film review, and weightlifting to optimize player development. Coach Lombardo shares his insight on evaluating starters involving a balance of mental and physical attributes with emphasis on situational football analysis. He puts a focus on quarterback development centering on active participation in play selection, defensive reads, and adaptability based on opponents and game scenarios. St. Edward's playoff success, which is 18-0 in the playoffs under Tom Lombardo, is attributed to continuous improvement, strategic evolution, and player strengths, underscoring their commitment to growth and adaptation throughout the season. Stay tuned for our Winning Edge takeaways following the episode.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
On this week's episode of the Champion Series, we're talking with Tom Lombardo, the head coach at Cleveland St. Edward High School. These guys have been to the state championship multiple times, and we're going to get into what the progression of practice looks like as you start in camp and head towards those scrimmages and even into the school year and how those adjust. And we'll talk a little bit about preparing your positions and determining starters as well. So, Coach Lombardo, great to have you back here on the podcast.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate you having me.
So I've been out at your practice before. I really enjoy the way you guys do things, but I don't think I've been out during camp. But would love to hear about what that looks like as you guys progress through camp and some of the adjustments you guys start to make as you get into the scrimmages and then school starts and then it's game week.
Sure. Well, let's first start with my rule with the OHSSA. You get the 5 acclimation days from July 15th through July 31st. So what we're doing is we have a mini camp this week, July 15th. So we'll go the whole week, and then the 18th and 19th will count as 2 of the helmet days, even though we'll be in helmets all 5 days. And then I give the kids off basically a week and a weekend, or 2 weekends in a week, and then so 9 days. And then the 29th we're back. And on the 29th, we could come back with shoulder pads, which I really think is cool because since they changed that rule, you had to do 2 more days of helmets, which was kind of, for us, the way we did it, at least I gave them kind of a week off to kind of have their last week getaway, and then it's like, hey, we're full time. So we'll be in the 29th and 30th in shoulder pads and shorts. On the 31st of July, we could put full pads on. And then, of course, August 1st is the official start, with contact. And the first scrimmage is now the weekend of August 9th, or Friday. If you go by Fridays, August 9th is when we'll scrimmage Hilliard Davidson. So I think that's important in terms of how you plan. We do a mini camp. We do 3 practices in July that are kind of like college-focused skill set things, since the state added that starting May 15th. And those are how we do a week in early June. That's a mini camp. We'll do 2 short practices in early July. We did that this year, July 1st and 2nd, and then kind of what I just said. The way we set these up is a little different than sort of, I think everyone's trending in this direction, is at least a lot of the coaches I've talked to, is double sessions are sort of a thing of the past for the most part. What we do is we'll come in at 7:45 and in the morning, and we take attendance. So kids are required to be here at 7:45, and it's a team meeting till about 8 o'clock. Just some general notes for the day, just reminders, things of that nature. At 8 o'clock, we do position meetings. Those go from 8 to about 8:43. So we get 40 to 45 minutes with install, review of practice from the day before, whatever each position coach kind of wants to do. Sometimes it's a full defensive meeting and full offense. Sometimes it's split with skill and O-line and the particular defensive positions. At 8:50, we start on the field, and we're usually on the field till about 11:20 to 11:30 is our longest we'll go. And in that session, we usually cover a special teams period of the day with 2 periods for special teams, and then a typical type of practice outside of that. We have position warm-up, we have an indie period, we have a team teach period, and then we'll do a team run. We'll do a skelly period, we'll do a team period, and we have some competition period we call NDX. And that's kind of your standard practice there. And since most of us are mostly one-way players, our guys are, I find that that's plenty long. And then after that, after we finish, we'll do a lift. The offense, let's say, will lift while the defense watches film of the practice after. And then the next day, that'll be vice versa. So what'll happen is during these mini camp weeks, each player will get 2 lifts and 3 film sessions, because usually Friday we do all film. And the last day of the camp, we usually cut it short. We'll do like field goal for special teams and make it only 1 period, and we take about maybe 25 minutes off the time of it and make it about a 2-hour practice. So we're on the field, I'd say 2.5 hours tops. And as the summer goes on, as we approach the second scrimmage, that cuts down to under 2 hours. And for us, we have teacher meetings starting July 19th or August 19th. So once we go August 19th, we're after school. So this schedule takes us through August 16th, basically. And again, it's tailored down, and we'll end about 11:30 on those days. So we'll cut our on-field activity to about under 2 hours. We kind of keep going on the summer and do a little bit more in the film and position meetings and stuff, as saving their legs. And playing 16 games the past 3 years, I've realized that it's not do or die here in August. The idea is to be healthy in week 11 and playing your best ball. And to do that, it's a process. Now, you got to get them in certain shape. You got to get them moving. You got to get them conditioned. And you got to have the install ready. You got to be able to do situational football. I think all that's important in this off time. That the juggle, I think, Keith, is balancing install with situational play and determining who your best players are. Sometimes when you're installing, you could miss a good player because maybe they don't understand mentally enough what's going on, and physically they're pretty advanced, or vice versa. The guy that maybe is a lesser athlete is mentally ahead, and you got to determine who the better player is of that and who should be the starter. And then you're trying to say, all right, let's put the ball on the goal line, let's put the ball in the red zone and the high red zone. Let's put it where we're backed up. Let's get some short yardage situations. And I think all those red zone and short yardage, I think the game is really coming to that. 4th down and short is a big play nowadays in football. That's not a punt anymore. Both sides, you better be ready. And the analytics and odds show, it's probably wise to go for more than that. And we were really good last year. We were 56 of 58 in the red zone with only 5 field goals. We were 5 of 5 for field goals. So that dwarfed our opponents by a lot. And on 4th down conversions, I think we were 16 or 15 of 23. And our opponents were under 50%. So we use those sessions, but it's hard to get those in going now when you don't have pads and that kind of thing. So
yeah, well, a few follow-ups there. First of all, you mentioned the 2 days, that way of life is kind of gone. And boy, those were grueling. I think both for the players and the coach. I know when I went to the college level, and it was at that time for them, you couldn't do 2 in a row. And it got to be when we would do those 2 days, we always felt like it was eye-opening that we felt we were less effective in our teaching, and because everything seemed rushed to get so much stuff in. So I think in a lot of ways, being able to pull back and be focused and at the same time get quality out of it is just as important as what you would try to do to get all those reps during 2 days.
I 100% agree. And I started noticing that right as I kind of ending Highland and switched over to St. Ed's. I'm kind of like, boy, everyone's dragging out the second session. You give these kids a time to eat lunch and sit around, and then you expect them to come back out there what a poor model in terms of preparing to. And even I remember Lake Catholic at the end in 01, we had won it there, and that was a real senior-laden team. And I remember coming out a lot in shorts for that second session and lightening up on it a little bit. It just wasn't as conducive. And we used to do like a morning practice that was now a little shorter, obviously. Then we kind of gave a break, then we did our special teams and that in a minute. Then we gave a lunch and then came out with defense. Guys were going two ways and splitting sides. So you really got in really good shape, I felt. But I think that was the majority of what it did. So I think there's better ways to do it. And I feel like our kids we were here at 7:45 this morning. They were out at 12:30. It could have been earlier. And the last part of that was just to lift the film. So the on-field activity, it feels quick, short, and where you're getting a lot done in that period. So I enjoy that. And that's kind of how we've rolled there the last at least 4 or 5 years.
Now, looking at something you brought up there, identifying starters. I mean, you bring some guys back, you're going to know, and you've been developing guys all year long, and it's not, as you said, always easy to figure out where everybody is at in terms of their development. Some of them, like you said, physically may be ahead, but mentally not quite there yet. And lesser athletes might look a lot sharper there. But it will all play out, I guess, for you. What's the method of evaluation and making sure that those guys are getting the reps they need and the chance for you to evaluate them to see who are our best guys? How do we get those guys out on the field?
It's truly the biggest challenge, what you just explained. And I don't think there's one correct answer except to say that it's hopefully a 16-week season and things change. And the proof is in the pudding of guys that were not starters in week 1 and our starters at week 6 or starters in week 9 or 10 and kind of real key contributors. And not only to mention that there's injuries. So you try and tell everyone, like, look, we're installing. It doesn't matter where you're at now. I try not to even do young 1, 2. I like to say older, younger, mid guys, Lions, Tigers, Bears is kind of how we call it on defense, even though the kids kind of know what that means. But move them around on that, too. We're not always keeping the same kids at this just so they understand that. Now, certainly if you're a returner and a senior and you've been there and done it, I think most of the kids know the ropes and know what to do. But, those sophomores and juniors that are battling for spots, it's not guaranteed. And not all positions are created equal. Some positions we have a lot of depth and a lot of players, and others we're thin. So guys are in there more than that because we just don't have as many players. So that runs through the gamut. And I think the college portal system is trickling down. It's been in high school forever, but I think even more so now. Kids, if they see some writing on the wall, say, well, particularly if you're at St. Ed, maybe I'll go back to my public school. I might have a better chance. Want to be on the field earlier. The college coach is telling them they need junior film and all that kind of stuff. I may mean well by saying it, but it puts kids things in their head like, well, if I'm not on the field as much my junior year at St. Ed's, I'm not going to be able to get a scholarship. Well, I tell the kids, look, if you put a gray shirt on and went to one of these camps, you're where you are anyways. Like, forget where you go to school. Like, they have you tabbed as something, Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, and that's what you are. You know what I mean? Now, so the better shot is probably playing the better competition and trying to improve, or maybe you're not ready even young and you need a little bit of time, or you need some special teams time and be a backup. But that being said, you're trying to juggle all that as you install and identify good players. So there's no great method of it except to say that in the past I've seen kids really come out. Brandon White, for example, last year as a sophomore, he wasn't starting at the beginning. We knew he was really good, but we had senior guys, and we're just like, hey, listen, this guy's really. And so by week 5, he was the main guy, and by week 9, he was like running for over 200 yards a game. So it's a process. I mean, kids trust that. You say that all the time, trust the process. But it's true. If they do, any coach and any team's going to want to put their best guys out there when they're ready and if they can and healthy. Some positions you probably need 2 or 3 running backs. You'd like 2 or 3 running backs, right? I mean, not bang a guy up the entire year. There's personnel groupings on offense of ways to evaluate and get guys out there. And we may have a couple guys that flip and do both sides of the ball this year. I think that are some veteran defensive players that can help us on offense. So that being said, it's a tough juggle. That's a hard thing too, when you're mostly one way and you try and make a 2-way player. Like it's not as easy as it looks the way play, which is probably why a lot of colleges don't do it. You don't see it a lot.
This episode is brought to you by Experian. Are you paying for subscriptions you don't use but can't find the time or energy to cancel them? Experian could cancel unwanted subscriptions for you, saving you an average of $270 per year and plenty of time. Download the Experian app. Results will vary. Not all subscriptions are eligible. Savings are not guaranteed. Paid membership with connected payment account required.
Right. With some of your older guys, I mean, you guys have been playing deep into the playoffs, into state championships, winning state championships for years here. So you do have guys who, what you have coming back. Do you take an approach with those guys at all where maybe you taper some of their reps and are able to give those reps to maybe a guy down the line to develop?
Great question. Early, a little bit of that, but not as much. I think we taper generally as the season goes on. The last 2 years for the playoffs, we play Friday now in the playoffs, where it used to be Saturday to Saturday. So with Friday games, I game Saturday and Sunday off. I tell people this, and they're shocked at this. But I'm like, listen, if the goal is to go 60 more, you're playing all over a half more season. Like, these kids appreciated the fact that they didn't have to get up Saturday morning, come and watch film, do a lift. Now, if they needed to come in and see the trainer or something, they did that on their own. But for the most part, guys, stay at home, get some rest, take care of your body, replenish, rehydrate. Monday we came out, we did a short on-field practice, shoulder pads and shorts, mostly install and reviewed some things from the game, and then we did film. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, we went hard, and Thursday I did it that way too. I didn't just go helmets, we put the shoulder pads on, and our walkthrough was a little bit more focused that way. But again, it was only an hour and 15 minutes. And our kids like that the best. We played our best ball in the play, like doing it like that. And it's counterintuitive, like to think, like, geez, you're less out there and how are you playing better? But I think there's a lot of like, hey, the kids have been in the games. So they've kind of seen it all by week 12 and 13 anyways. There's not much that can dupe you. It's more important to like kind of analyze your opponent, understand what we're doing and understand the game plan than actually being out there just beating your legs up. Now, Tuesday, Wednesday were good intense practices, and that was it. But they almost had 3 days of recovery, Saturday, Sunday, and then a little bit of Monday wasn't too hard. Where they're Tuesday, they're ready. They healed up, whatever. They felt fresh. They were able to go hard. They were anxious. And then, boom, we're Friday. And it's like, I said to guys, we go next week. I'll see you Monday. They were so pumped up on that after the game. And I told them that when I would tell them in the circle there, that's the case. Now, when the first year was more like, we did it more like, if you play well, and it kind of like, no, we were going to do it. And right last year, I'm just like, hey, listen, this is the way it is. This is our schedule. And coaches appreciated it. The coaches got a lot of work done on Saturday on their own, inputting plays on huddle. Sometimes in the playoffs, you get 6-7 games, so it's like, we put the data in. Can you analyze it yourself? Why are we up here meeting? To do this on your own, and let's come in. Coaches came in Sunday morning with a good feel for the team, and then we'd kind of watch a full game of them as staff. Let's get some ideas on it. Let's put a game plan together. So that was a couple hours on Sunday, and then let's go back and do it again, man. Just go break it down and watch it, and what does it take for us to be successful? Sometimes less is more, you know what I mean? Like, you can wear everyone out. To your point, the coaches in college with double sessions and everything. So I found that to be successful, and 18-0 so far in the playoffs. I guess we're going to change it since we've been doing it.
Right. I know, in having been at your practices, I think you take some unique approaches, especially I've seen you work with the quarterbacks. I see how those guys have a ton of input into what's being called in practice. I know some of that goes into the game planning as well. Would love to hear you talk about preparing your players from both that physical and mental standpoint, and some of the things that you do that are unique in that way.
Yeah, great question. I think that starting at the quarterback position, I think that is the position where it's mostly like a coach. And let's face it, there's this saying, play caller's intent. I heard that at a clinic a couple years ago. I think it's been around, but I kind of like that. Does the quarterback understand when you call a play in the situation you're calling it, why you're calling it, and what they're looking for? And I think, I'm going to sound a little counterintuitive, but I think all the Skelly or 7-on-7s that are being done now, you're identifying players and kids are having fun doing it, and it's great. I'm not opposed to it. But in some ways, it's not. It might hurt quarterbacks over the long haul because it's not where the pressure's coming. And I see it. We do our Skelly Drill, and the quarterback goes through his progressions beautifully, and it's a progression with the keys, reading a player, and that. And all of a sudden, here comes pressure. And here comes edge pressures with corners or safeties, corners trapping or safeties rolling down, and now they're in a whole different thing. Well, in my opinion, that has to be practiced more than. Yes, you want the routes run and the dispersion and spacing well and the timing and the throws and 7-on-7, and there's a place for that, of course. But if it's overdone and it takes out of the quarterback maybe not being able to get to the third progression even, it's like one, throw, run, you know what I mean? Like, what's happening here? What's the pressure coming? Like, how much time do you really have? You can the line really protected. And I've erred on that side definitely more often. So one thing I'll do is in Skelly, I'll have the quarterback call the plays. Like, I write them down, we put them in then later, like, it gives me a sense what rolls off the quarterback's tongue. Like, what's he comfortable with and what can he call? That's a good way of doing it. I also have the quarterbacks always type in the plays on huddle. So if they got to type in the formation, just how we do it in there. So they're watching it, obviously. They got to put the play in and seeing it from the offensive perspective, and then they got to put the coverage in. They can identify the coverage as best they can, watch the play that they were in there and see it. I know they're watching film, and they can rattle off the offense. these are important developmental tools for the quarterback, in my opinion, but more so than almost going out there and throwing 7-on-7 for 2 hours. It's good, but that stuff really gets them seeing pressures and different fronts. And Coach, we have our defense that gives us everything. So it's difficult. It's difficult for me to tell sometimes.
Yeah, I think a really good method of getting them to understand what goes into what you're doing. As you said, the play caller's intent. What are you looking at? What are the things you're seeing as you go through and study film? Because watching a clip as the coach is running through it, it's a heck of a lot different than being the guy who has to break that clip down. You're looking for all kinds of things, and you start to key into footwork and leverage and all those kinds of things to make some distinctions between all the different variations you might see between the different coverages. It's definitely going to give them more of the mindset, I guess, of a coach and really understanding what's happening, as opposed to when they're passively sitting there watching film and having you go through it.
Yeah, amen. And I'll tell you, Coach, I really believe this. I'd rather go into game one with 5 plays that a quarterback can handle under any situation in terms of pass plays. 5. I don't care what they are. Give me 1 or 2 quick, give me 2 dropbacks and a play action that the quarterback really understands it. And you'd be surprised. And you're going to have more than that, and not the sheet. And sometimes I'm going, this guy's cramping. It's like, hey, what does this guy really know? And what do the receivers really know? What can we execute? And I think part of it is, as you install and put it in and put a volume in just like anyone else, maybe a little less than what some do, but my point is, does the quarterback understand it? What it rolls off his tongue? What does he see on the coverage? What can he throw really well? Who's he confident throwing to and how? And do you have enough in certain situations that you can handle 3rd and 5? What are you going to call when it's 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5? Like, what do you want? And as a play caller, I talk to Larry Garris a lot about it too. And it's like, yeah, that sheet becomes a lot smaller. But it's like, this looks really good and that looks really good. Oh, and in 7-on-7, yeah, let's roll it. And the quarterback doesn't have any pressure and we're firing it all over the place. All right, we'll do that. So another thing we do, like even right now, we'll do situations, 3 plays and rotate, but it's 1st and 10. Wherever it ends, the coach calls it 2nd and 8, 2nd and 6, 3rd and 2. So we're getting in that, and it challenges me calling the plays and the quarterback to say, what do I want to call? And so just today, I got the first situation was 3rd and 4, and the play came to my mind. And I'm like, I'm getting comfortable with this play. I'm getting comfortable saying it. I think the quarterback can visualize it. I told him today, can you close your eyes and see what all the receivers are dispersing against the coverage? If you could see that, then you're confident in the play and you're able to do it. Well, that might be 5 plays in the first game, passing plays. It might be. As the season goes on, that might increase, but it may only be 5.
Just the methodology standpoint and having these guys input the different things that they're going to into huddle when you're breaking down an opponent. How do you divide that up amongst your guys, and where and when are they doing it? Are they doing it on their own? Or they do it in the office? How do you do that?
Yeah, we do it on our own. So the quarterbacks go home and off season, they type in the plays that they were in. So they're reviewing their plays. Then when it's in season, they're watching it, and we'll have them sort of either do it on a notepad or put it in huddle in the coverage. Sometimes we don't want them in case they're wrong, and we want to kind of get it right. And then when we explain it to them, so we'll say, all right, I'll also ask, all right, what are your 5 best concepts and why? What do you want to run to them? What formation and why? All right, so-and-so is a quarters team. Coach, I really like this because, I like Y cross because the safety's going to jump, and then we can look at the backside post or whatever he's saying. And it's kind of like, okay. Or if it's something that's outrageous, what do you mean you like that? Like the guy sitting in the middle of the field, and where do you think you're going to hit? Like, give me valid reasons of what you've seen this team do that says, all right, we like this. And is it matchup based? Is it coverage based? Is it whatever? And then, of course, we'll have ours, and you put the thing together there. And that's what I like to do. And I'll take it off to give the quarterbacks an assignment. All right, give me 2 best quick game. Give me your 3 best drop back, and give me your best play action that you like this week. What do you feel most comfortable with? They'll text me it or write me it midweek. And as we work through the game plan, I'll give them a copy of the call sheet. I try and develop that call sheet from day one. It's kind of like, it's rudimentary. But all right, here it is. All right, now let's build it and take off stuff and see what we like. And that process gets better as the season goes on, for sure. At the beginning, it's a little tough. One, you don't have as much data on your opponent. You don't know yourself as well. And I always say, look, you don't really know yourself till week 4 anyways. You got to get in 3. The scrimmages tell you a little bit, but not enough. You got to go through these games, and hopefully you win them as you're learning it. And then I think by week 4, you kind of know what kind of team you're going to be. We developed in 12 and 21 team even last year a little bit as it went on. We had the great line, obviously, but we had that kind of personnel. We've got some great matchups on the outside now. This year we might look a little different, but my point is, it was like, really, boy, this is looking really good as this goes on. And, we had 108 plays of 21 personnel that mostly came towards the end of the season. No new plays, just plays that we accentuated from those personnel groupings. 12 was real close to it. We were able to do similar things out of it. And if you saw us in the state title game, that we were an 11 team, but so we were 11-12. Our fullback got hurt, so we were 11-12 more, but we could have been 11-21. And that posed some problems. This year it might be more, maybe 10-20. Like we might not have those two good wise, physical two tight ends we had the year before. But it was a lot of gaps, and it was perfect for our team last year with the great line we had. And we created extra gaps a lot for safeties to come down. And then we had outside guys that could really win some one-on-one matchups.
Yeah, well, as you said, the proof is in the pudding, 18-0 in the playoffs. So you guys have been doing an incredible job. It's fun to watch you, and I have the luxury of being able to see your games during the season as well as watching them streaming, and really like how you guys play the game and enjoy the thoughts that you shared with us here today. So I appreciate you taking the time again, and best of luck to you and the Eagles in 2024. Here are winningest takeaways and ideas for implementation. 1. Use time wisely. Coach Lombardo made the point that they try to be as efficient as possible, and that's been a theme as we've talked to different coaches throughout camp, that they look to create practice sessions that cut out the things that are not necessary, and they're the most efficient that they can be with player time. 2, remember that all players develop differently, especially as you're installing at the beginning of the season. So the player who maybe isn't as athletic but knows the stuff well, later on down the line may not be as good as that player who is very athletic but took some time to learn things. Just remember that players develop differently, and you need to tune into how their development is working both from the mental and the physical standpoint. And 3, give players accountability in the game planning process. For Coach Lombardo and his quarterbacks, that means they enter things into huddle, and you can do some things with your players at any position that give them some ownership in the game plan. It may be as little as scouting the opponent they'll be playing against, or looking at some specific things like if they were an offensive lineman, the stunts that the defenses run, or a defensive lineman understanding where double teams come from. There's plenty of ways to do it. You need to determine what's best for your players and how you can make them more accountable and in tune with the game plan. Be sure to visit coachandcoordinator.com and check out the 10% Toolkit, which highlights our partners and some of the offers they have to you as a listener. The link to that is in the show notes. Follow all we're doing at coachandcoordinator.com and follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.